If you're a maintenance supervisor for a commercial property, you've had to deal with everything from leaky faucets to flickering light bulbs. But nothing's worse than that ancient boiler that's lived in the building since the day it was built, 50 years ago. It's enough to make anyone lose their cool. That's where Grainger comes in. With industrial-grade products and dependable fast delivery, Grainger can help with any challenge, from worn-out components to everyday necessities. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Most weight loss plans are one size fits all, not taking into account each person's individual needs. Noom is here to change that. Noom Weight uses psychology. That's why they say losing weight starts with your brain. But it also takes into account your unique biological factors, which also affect weight loss success. The program helps you understand the science behind your eating choices and why you have cravings. Everyone's journey is different, so your daily lessons are personalized to you and your goals. One of the great things about Noom is that it's nourishing instead of restrictive. They focus on progress instead of perfection. You don't have to give up carbs, or anything for that matter. Have cravings? Food FOMO? Noom can help you lose weight while still enjoying your favorite foods. To date, Noom has helped more than 5.2 million people lose weight. Stay focused on what's important to you with Noom's psychology and biology-based approach. Sign up for your trial today at Noom.com. That's Noom.com.
We're starting out live.
Okay, go ahead.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. This show is brought to you by Audible.com. You go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. You sign up for free. You get yourself a free audiobook. I think you can get yourself free audiobooks for a whole month. Okay, this is one of our special pre-recorded shows that we put in the members section for members only. And then it'll go into rotation on all the stations that carry our show. It'll be on Late Night in the Midlands. It'll be on Talk Superstation. It'll be on Wolf Spirit Radio. It'll be on awakeradio.us, awakeradio.uk. It'll be over on PSN Radio. It'll be on Para X Saturday nights, 7 p.m., CBS Radio. And also to a High Point Radio on AM/FM in New York and New Jersey and Pennsylvania. We have with us today a very special guest, a return guest, a good old Hank Harrison, who's the father of Courtney Love. And I contacted Hank because the new movie just came out called Soaked in Bleach that covers this whole story about Courtney Love and the death of Kurt Cobain. And I want to get his take on it. And we were talking about Hank just the other night. I had John Potash on, and Hank's name came up as usual. Fascinating guy. Hank, are you there?
I'm here.
Hank, thanks so much for coming back, man. Why don't you give the audience a little brief bio about yourself, and then we'll get into all the things you want to talk about.
Well, I started out as a psychologist. I went to school at San Francisco State, and I got interested in crisis intervention. And subsequently, people have thought over the years that I was recruited by the CIA or something. That isn't true at all. But I was bringing people down off of bad acid trips because they were falling off of buildings in the middle 60s, 65, 66. And I started a number of small crisis intervention counseling centers, including LSD Rescue, which is the primary one, and then one in Chicago. And one started out, branched off, went to L.A., and there was one in Vancouver called Electric Kool-Aid Acid Test, and several other ones that started out and really helped people a lot when they would call in for emergency help. And I was one of the founders of that, or I was the original originator of that idea, because at the time there were no psychedelic ambulance drivers, and there were thousands of people bad tripping. So that was my first contribution, and the money I got to do that came from the Grateful Dead, because I grew up with guys in the band, Phil Lesh, the bass player, and several other people. And they never did a benefit for me, but I was always getting little grants from the National Institute of Mental Health. And this was before the internet, you know. It took off just newspapers and stuff. But then the Haight-Ashbury thing blew up into a big balloon, and after a while, I got a little bit tired of it and turned it over to other people. And I got interested. So then I got interested in other stuff. And one of the things I was interested in, very fascinating, was Stonehenge. And from Stonehenge, I went into the other megalithic stones in Europe and the meaning of the sunset solstice and the sunrise and that kind of thing, the lunar connections to all that. And I got fascinated with that, and I dropped psychology, and I went around starting to learn how to write. And in the process of that, I helped to organize, I don't know, it branched out into, I was doing everything all at once kind of thing. And I met a guy named Saul Walensky in Chicago, who was an organizer, and he helped me to learn how to get people together for projects and stuff. None of that was out of the CIA, though. You know, it was just spontaneous street stuff.
Okay,
you know, and so recently I've been accused of being part of the CIA. It's kind of ridiculous.
Okay, right. You're right, and there's all kinds of comments. We did another long interview about a year and a half ago. We did a 2-hour interview, and in the comments there's all kinds of accusations about you. People are even upset with me, saying that I'm not asking the right questions, that you're dodging my questions. I didn't find that. I think you're a cool guy, to be honest with you. I kind of like
I'll answer. I'll say, I'm not a homosexual, so right there you got me. You know,
okay.
I don't know. I don't know what the heck they want, man. I'm not dodging anything.
Okay, but now, as far as the CIA accusations, were you ever in the military? Were you in the service, any kind of service?
I was in the Navy, and I went for what's known as the kiddie cruise, and I was a medical corpsman in the Navy for a while, and then I got out of there as soon as I could and went to college.
Okay, and in the Navy, were you involved in intelligence work in the Navy?
Not at all. It was medical. It was just medical, mostly waxing floors in a psychiatric ward.
Okay. Now, what about during your time with the Grateful Dead and that kind of stuff? Was there ever an occasion where you were contacted to be like a government informant or a government operative in any kind of way?
No, not at all. But there was a time when I came to Loggerheads with a guy named Owsley Stanley, the king of LSD guy. I didn't like him very much, and he didn't like me, and he knew I stood in his way. He had some kind of agenda that I didn't like. And I told Phil and I told Jerry I didn't like that. And I told him Owsley was delusional, and I had him typed as a kind of a paranoid schizophrenic, really. He was a functional paranoid. He's dead now, by the way, but he's left a great legacy behind because he created all this free LSD and gave it away to a lot of people that probably shouldn't have had it.
What do you think his agenda was?
What?
What do you think his agenda was?
He may well have been one of those CIA type, government implant guys. I don't know, but I didn't like him as a person. I thought he was delusional, and he was very influential over the Grateful Dead at a early period, and he gave a lot of free concerts and stuff. And one of the things where we really came to loggerheads, what I definitely disagreed with Jerry was Jerry met Huey Newton on an airplane one time coming back from somewhere, and Huey talked him into doing a benefit for the Black Panthers in Oakland. Okay. Big mistake. Jerry, give him the money. Don't do a benefit. Just hand him the money, But no, he wanted to do a whole public benefit, and the FBI got a hold of that one, and it was after that we were all being tracked. The FBI parked across the street in seersucker suits and an Oldsmobile sedan, and they were there 24/7. They were always around after that.
Oh, and, the FBI was always around, you're saying?
Yeah, because of Jerry doing a benefit for the Black Panthers.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay.
It's nothing. I don't know. He just him and Huey got along. What can I say?
Now, on one of
So,
your
Huey
websites,
got-
on one of your websites, there's a comment there. I don't have it in front of me right now, but where someone said, "Hey, Hank Harrison looked like a CIA agent."
Yeah, I did. I dressed really well, and
Okay.
I always was very snappy dresser. My dad was a snappy dresser, and my grandfather was a snappy dresser, and I was always up to trend. Luckily I had enough money to buy Gucci loafers, and I had a seersucker suit and a briefcase. I was a psychologist. I went to Stanford and San Francisco State, and I learned how to be a good psychologist, and I patterned myself after Dick Albert before he became Baba Ram Das,
Right.
And I knew that I had to have a briefcase, and I had to go to school, and that's when I first met all those guys. So they thought I was some kind of a government, guy.
Okay.
I still laugh at it. I think it's hilarious.
Well, a lot of people do think this about you, and a lot of people say that too, that you were Courtney Love's handler and all this kind of stuff. And
great.
well, that's what they say. And there's a lot of comments
I know.
in the last YouTube interview that we did together. Now you're saying that this guy David Icke or David Ickes, the guy who has this theory about how the Queen of England is a reptile and from another planet.
Yeah.
Right. This alien agenda kind of
that
thing.
guy.
Yeah. And he thinks
Who would believe that crap?
What? Now,
Who would even come here?
now
That's just complete shit.
well, watch your
And
language.
people believe it.
Watch your language. But now the thing is you're saying that he personally wrote an article about you, accusing you of being a CIA agent?
I read something that somebody on his staff or blog or
Right.
something did say that, and I couldn't believe it because they never interviewed me, and they just sort of sit there admitted that, me and Courtney, we in fact, the truth is I had heard after Courtney left me, I got her out of juvenile hall in it was 1977 to 76 and 78, and then by 79 I was in Ireland. Courtney came to stay with me in Ireland. So that 4-year period there was when I was exposed to Courtney as an adult. Earlier than that, when she was a baby, of course, everybody said I gave her LSD, which I had to take a polygraph, and I passed a polygraph, and I have copies of the polygraph for anybody that wants to write me a letter and say, hey, send me a copy of the polygraph. I'll send you the copy, or you can get it online. It shows the actual polygraph examiner, a very nice guy, very straight guy. Now, that guy, the polygraph guy, he did work for the CIA for a while in the San Francisco Police Department and the government. His job was to screen people that were working for the Iraqi government to see if they were loyal to the American, that kind of thing. And he went over there and did that. But that had no connection to me, just because that was another client that he had.
Okay.
Nothing to do with me.
Now, another question, too, is has Courtney ever come out publicly and said, hey, my dad never gave me LSD, or does she claim you gave her LSD?
Oh, she thrives on that kind of crap. She wants to keep that alive because it gives her an excuse for being eccentric and weird.
All right. Well, I can insert this. My involvement with David Icke. I saw some stuff printed on his website that I knew was incorrect. And several other people who were friends of mine and allies of the show, we contacted him and said, hey, we know for a fact this is what you're posting on here is false. And he continues to publish that information. So I could testify to that in court if I had to, that I showed him the evidence, that the people he's promoting are frauds. And so we'll just leave it at that. If it ever came to it, I could testify for Hank Harrison if I had to. Okay.
If there's one thing I've learned over the years, it's the persistence of stupidity.
Yeah.
How persistent people can be with that kind of stuff. I mean, they just won't give up,
Now,
if you could come in my house and see the dirty clothes on the floor and how the dogs are playing in the backyard and that kind of stuff, and how we have a little teeny pool for the neighbors' kids, that kind of stuff, you would see that we were just normal, bohemian, my wife has horses,
right.
type people,
But you were neck deep in there with Owsley and the electric Kool-Aid acid test and all these kind of guys.
Sure.
And there are a lot of people putting forth the theory that these guys were some kind of government operation. What do you think about that theory?
Well, I know Neil Cassie was never into that scene as far as the government goes.
Okay.
I know that I'm pretty sure that they were infiltrated. I can guarantee you that somewhere along the line, the Brotherhood of Light, the LSD Brotherhood, whatever you want to call it, those guys were infiltrated. I avoided them. But, to think that I personally had anything to do with that, God, no, man, that was boring for one thing. I mean, they all thought it was exciting and wonderful, and I always thought, Jesus, this is dumb. Because I had other things to do. I had, by that time, gotten bitten by the Stonehenge bug and was really on my way to figuring out what these stones really meant over in Ireland and Scotland and places like that. And I was fascinated by that to the point where I now have figured it out, but I got to get the books out before I kick the bucket, But
yeah, what are you waiting for?
Everybody, huh?
What are you waiting for?
Oh, well, for one thing, the books are finished. 2 of the books are finished, and I have another 2 or 3 to come out. But in the process of that, I stumbled across Glastonbury, and we got a friend of mine and I, a woman in Singapore who's a writer, discovered who's buried in King Arthur's grave. And so all this stuff is really more fascinating. I guess I'm more interested in solving it than writing. I write about it, and I love writing, but I don't give a shit if I get published or not anymore. It's at the point where the publishing game is so corrupt, and it's just I don't even care. I'm getting to the point where I'm 75 yesterday, and as you know, talking to me, you could tell I'm not as senile, although I do occasionally slur my speech and stagger. They were stupid enough to give me a driver's license for 5 more years. That, I think, is a total triumph.
Well, we're going to put a bell around your neck, man. If I see you driving down the road, I'll head the other way. But let me ask you this.
I'm 75. Stay out of my way.
Yeah, I definitely will. Let me ask, because I can imagine. I see where my father drives. Let me ask you this, though. You can self-publish nowadays on CreateSpace, and the book will be up on Amazon in 24 hours.
Yeah, I really am up on CreateSpace, and I have a friend named Eckhart Gerdes back in Chicago that's been begging me to use CreateSpace to put this stuff out. And I'm really, on the 22nd, which is a couple days from now, I'm going to, I'm having a meeting with some backers that are going to give me the minimum. The thing I don't want to do is get one of these lotteries going where people like you and give you money, and I just want to go ahead and get the book published. I have a distribution channel set up. I have had for years. And I own my own publishing company, ARKIVES, Archives Press. And anybody who wants to go to my archives.com, ARKIVES.com, and you can see all the books that are out there. It's just, I spend my time watching my old lady feed the horses, and we got a new pig, and she bought a pony the other day. We rescued a pony about a week ago. We do stuff like that. That's what we do.
Let's get back. Let me get back to these allegations again. About you being a handler and part of MK Ultra and part of CIA. Now, what about because you're saying when you were working with these guys that you did see infiltration, you did spot guys that you thought were agents and stuff. Now, during this period, during this period of time, was there ever an occasion where you had like a case, like an open case with the cops? I mean, it was some kind of an arrest or something like that, where you had to negotiate a plea deal?
Me?
Yeah.
Me having going to jail?
Yeah.
No, I never. No. There was a time when we got busted. With some chick went nuts at our house, and the cops came, and but I never got arrested.
Okay. Now, what about? Have you ever in your life been like voluntarily an informant for the police? Some kind of informant, or
no?
Okay. No, but not even with this business with the Kurt Cobain and stuff like that. You've never volunteered information to the police?
No, because they didn't. First of all, they didn't ask me.
Okay.
But secondly, all I have is opinions.
Okay.
I mean, all I have is what my daughter told me, and I'm 100% sure I know who killed Cobain, and I'm 100% sure that whoever killed Cobain made a lot of money. And if you want to read about it, you need to get my book, Love Kills: The Assassination of Kurt Cobain. And the reason I use the word assassination in the title was I wanted people to realize, the readers to realize, that it wasn't an outright murder per se, but it was more like a political assassination because Cobain was a really great organizer. And he had a whole generation of kids eating out of his hand. And he was leading them into a kind of a lighted space and a more enlightenment in a weird sort of way. I mean, sort of a backwards kind of approach to it. But had I been able to meet him and hang out with him, I might have actually been able to infiltrate that camp. But I'm 100% sure Cobain's group was infiltrated and was under the control of some very evil and dangerous people. That part I'm sure of.
For what motivation?
I saw them, I was there, and I know who they were. So I got out of there pretty quick.
For what motivation?
Oh, well, there's billions and millions of dollars involved.
So just greed?
Well, that would be the... Don't say just greed. Greed is a really important motive, you know. I still can't understand why people think he killed himself because there were at least 1,000 people or 500 people or more that got money off it. But the day Kurt died, people got money.
Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, it wasn't just my daughter, although she was the main recipient of the estate. There's just a whole bunch of people that were happy to see Kurt die. And incidentally, I got phone calls from deadheads and letters from deadheads saying good riddance to bad rubbish and stuff like that. They didn't like the kid. It was he didn't like the Grateful Dead. They were all offended. But, you know, there was a lot of that going on. I was a traitor to the Grateful Dead cause because I sided with Kurt. I never met the guy. My daughter wouldn't let me meet him. I tried to meet him 3 or 4 times. I talked to him on the phone a couple times, but I never got the chance to actually go and hang out with him alone because Courtney was never going to let that happen.
Now, what about, I know that John Potash, he just wrote this book about drugs as a weapon against us, and he got in contact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I talked to him.
Yeah, and I gave him your number.
Oh, you're the guy. Oh, you're the guy.
I'm the guy, yeah. I don't get it. I'm the kingmaker behind the scenes. I get no credit for anything. But let me ask you a question now. What did you think about his portrayal of Courtney Love? Have you read it?
Well, I guess so. I mean, I haven't read the book yet because it isn't out.
No, it's out, yeah. As a matter of fact, I was just talking to him last night, and he didn't send you a copy of the book yet?
No.
Okay, he's gonna send you one.
See, they never, you know, I'm like a mushroom, you know, kept in the dark, that shit, you know. I mean, nobody tells me it.
I hear you.
I live in a obscure town south of Sacramento. We have horses. The reason I moved into the other room is because there's a tree trimmer across the street.
You sound much better. Yeah, the audio sounds much better right now. So let me ask you this.
I'm sorry.
Now, he describes Courtney, though, as, hey, something's going on with her as far as being an agent or whatever. Some kind of, there's something there, man. Because now she was sure.
There is.
Yeah.
No, there is.
Well,
but I'm not going to take the blame for it because they didn't tell me when she was a baby. They didn't tell me what they were doing. But I know for a fact that my ex-wife, Courtney's mother, has 150 IQ and is really almost delusional sometimes herself. But because she's so privileged and she was born well, and because her mother, her biological mother, is a Pulitzer Prize winner and has had 2 or 3 bestsellers, she found this out way after she left me, that she wrote a book about it for Doubleday. They were saying things about her that were trying to cover up their own stupidity. And I think Linda, that is my ex-wife, Courtney's mother, made a few mistakes, and she's kind of ashamed of it now. But, there was a lot of times when they didn't like me because I was just kind of a carefree, deadhead guy that was hanging out with Phil and Jerry in the days before the Grateful Dead was formed. Phil and I were friends from almost from high school, from junior college, and in San Mateo. And he introduced me to Jerry early in 62, 63, before the Dead were formed. The Warlocks were formed in 65.
But let me ask you this now, because
Courtney was born in 65, so I didn't have exposure to. But Jerry used to be Courtney's babysitter and stuff. So anyway, Linda was, just to finish and answer your question, Linda has said stuff like, the reason we were so mean to you, Courtney, is because you remind us of Hank. And she's gone on record and said that, and I have the quote. She's actually said it a couple times, and then Courtney repeated that in one of her journals, which she published. So, let's make Hank the bad guy. Let's make Hank, when he gave her acid, he forgot to spank her. He never spanked her. Right, I never spanked her. So, there was all this stuff about me being the bad guy. I was in a Zen monastery having a damn near close nervous breakdown at the time, down in Big Sur. I took 6 months off when Martin Luther King was assassinated, and I was living in Big Sur at the time, and meditating, trying to get my head back together, And I finally came out of that, and then I decided I would go on this other path to study Stonehenge and the ancient civilizations. That's how I got off that.
But now, while you've had some fascinating life, man. I tell you, you've met some incredible people. But now, when you describe, okay, well, I went off to study Stonehenge. How'd you finance that? What were you doing to fund yourself?
Oh well, a couple of things. I got a grant, and my dad gave me some money, and my family had some money, and I was able. It wasn't that expensive in those days, and I wrote a book called "The Drug HEAD, Head the Drug User in America" was the master's thesis. I turned it into a book and made a little money on that, but it went out to police departments. I think a lot of times people think that because my book appeared in a lot of police departments, I was somehow working for the cops or something. But none of that was true. I mean, I was buddies with Gene Schoenfeld, and I was buddies with Dick Alpert, back in Joel Fort, and people like that were bringing people down off of bad acid trips. And I was always making a little bit of money, and I was working. So I was teaching school a little bit. So there was always enough money to save up. And I married a couple of rich girls, so I was able to get enough money to go to Europe,
There you go.
It wasn't that hard.
Okay, let me ask you this.
It wasn't that hard.
Now, when you look at, we would start discussing that something's going on with Courtney. She's somehow been handled throughout her life, and her mother's money came from Pulitzer and from Doubleday. That's suspicious money in my book.
No, actually, yeah, that's true too. But no, that's her grandmother's money.
Okay.
Her mother's money came from Ferrari and Ricci opticians in San Francisco, and Milton Ferrari was the salesman, and Jack Ricci was the lens grinder, and they made money during the Second World War by doing all the glasses. They had a franchise to do most of the glasses for the GIs and the Navy guys that were being shipped out to the Pacific Theater. I mean, they went all over the Pacific Theater. They did lenses, and they had a big operation. And they took that money after the Second World War, and they invested it in a chain of optical dispensing stores called Ferrari and Ricci in San Francisco. And they bought Wooster opticians on Union Square, too. You can check all this.
Okay.
And they put their money in stock, and one of the stocks they bought was Bosch and Lohm, and they bought stock in one of the satellites, first ComSat satellite stock. They bought gold bullion, they bought gold shares. and things like that. I know that they were living pretty high off the hog when Linda and I first met, and they invited me to come and join the. I guess I made a big mistake. They wanted me to join the. Some of these men's clubs in San Francisco are pretty suspicious. I don't know what the hell is going on with those guys. I could have been a Shriner when I could have been, a Freemason. Yeah. I just rejected all that. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. My dad was a Freemason. So, yeah, I had the chance to do all that stuff, but I never did.
Yeah, I was invited to that, too, yeah.
So I know who I'm talking to now, and if I say anything more detailed, you're going to, somebody in your audience is going to come out and say, "Hey, man, you said he was and I'm going, no, wait, that's not. I didn't do any of that. I just had a chance to do it. I know you were a flying saucer guy. I know, And so I have to be very careful, man. I have a very mundane, very stupid life, and I pretty much had that to keep me calmed down because actually I've had a pretty exciting life, and I've met a lot of very exciting people, and I've been counseling a lot. One of my functions as a shrink was to counsel people, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not ethically allowed to say to you who I was counseling.
Okay, I have those same limitations. Yeah, I'm a private investigator. I have those same limitations. I'm not allowed to discuss clients, or even if someone is a client or was a client.
There you go.
And again, too, I was approached by both the Church of Scientology and the Freemasons to join both organizations way back 1989. Like 1989, around that time. At a very critical point in my life, too. It was a low point in my life when they kind of sought me out and said, "Hey, come with us." And I turned it down as well.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you a question, though.
So that's why I'm saying to you, I'm glad we're having this clarification.
Yeah.
I'm glad we're having this conversation to clarify because I'm ethically bound to not divulge who I was helping counseling. But, I never did have an actual psychological license. I never passed the state of California test. But I think I'm still ethically bound to, because I did help people, and I helped a lot of people, And I brought a lot of people down off of bad acid trips, and I learned a lot about crisis intervention counseling. And I'll brag a little bit from the saying that I invented some crisis intervention techniques. But for me to come out and tell you who I actually was shrinking and who was my failures and who were my successes, all you got to do is look at the history of some of the rock bands in San Francisco, and you can see where I came from, So that's the end of that. I'm not going to talk about that anymore.
Okay.
But that's, figure it out.
Now, let's get back to
anybody with a brain.
That's it. Well, anybody with a brain, that rules out half my audience, okay? Well, let me ask you this, man.
Sorry.
No, that's it. No, my audience is great. I have brilliant people, and I love them. Let me ask you this now, because we were getting into the whole thing about how Courtney does appear to be some kind of operative. And someone that was picked very young, and put through grooming and stuff like that, different cults. There's even some speculation she was down there at the Presidio. I know she was at the Presidio Middle School because I know someone who saw her there. Now, there's some theory now that perhaps she was at the Presidio Daycare Center as well.
I don't know, but I'm sure that they did stuff with her when I wasn't around because they didn't want to let me meet her, hang out with her anymore. And there was a certain kind of involvement with the Catholic Church too. I always wondered about that myself,
right? Because
she would go up. What they would say was they didn't want me to visit with her anymore because every time I took her out for a visit, she'd want to stay with me and not come home. And so what they were saying was, I must have given her some bad drugs or I must have shrunk her head or done something. The truth is, it was the other way around. I think that once they moved to Oregon and took off, and they disappeared, and I couldn't find out where they were. They moved up to Oregon, I found out later. She was known to have had all kinds of wacky practices with all kinds of strange inner circle, I call est holes, and that Eckhart seminars, training groups, and spring something, and several other people, and there was one called Reparenting where they were actually doing primal scream therapy and walking on coals and tarot readings and all kinds of stuff like that Courtney was telling me about. I don't think she was making it up. And then she said she had this one shrink that was giving her Tuinol and some hypnotic chemicals, and I couldn't figure out at the time whether that I never made the connection. One of the reasons I was fascinated by what Potash said was that I'm thinking, wow, so maybe that's what did happen to her, because
right. I
personally have no direct knowledge that but they wouldn't be telling me. You understand? They wouldn't be telling me. I'd be the first person to complain if I found out my daughter was being her head was being shrunk by or brainwashed by some of these wacky cults that I knew that were crazy at the time. And so it did. I hate to be not paranoid. I know a lot of your people in your audience love being paranoid, but I don't want to embellish it. On the other hand, I don't want to deny it completely because there's always that sort of lingering doubt in my mind that Linda had made some mistakes. I doubt that Linda actually had. She was a very loving person. I doubt that she had any evil in her heart, but I think she was easily duped by these cults and stuff. See, and I think probably Courtney got exposed to some of that. Now that's all I can get verified. I don't have any actual verification. However, they put her in this place out in Oregon called the Hillcrest School. And she was in there for quite some time, 2 or 3 years, from the time she was about 12 or 13 to the time she was I got her out when she was 16, 15 and a half. So, while she was in there, who knows what happened to her.
All right. Now, I just contacted you recently because Courtney's name turned up on the flight manifest of this character, Jeffrey Epstein. Are you familiar with the Jeffrey Epstein case?
No.
Okay, Jeffrey Epstein is a Palm Beach billionaire actually. He owns
yes.
Right, and he owns that mansion in Palm Beach. He owns a private island in the Virgin Islands. He owns a ranch out in New Mexico and owns the biggest town. Right.
She was running with a crowd that connected to David Geffen.
Right.
And David Geffen and Epstein knew each other. That's right. There's a connection in that. She told me that she could get David Geffen to do anything she wanted. And I laughed at her because I met Geffen back in the day when I was hanging with her dad back in New York. And David Crosby told me many, many times that David Geffen is the devil incarnate, And I said, why do you say that, David? And then I met David Geffen once or twice at the Navarro Hotel in New York. And Geffen was having a temper tantrum, and then I found out later that he was well known for having temper tantrums. And he was kicking some guy out of his room because he was a half an hour. He stayed over too late. Think just small things that he would go nuts. And then years and years and years later, I found out he was hanging out with Yoko Ono and John Lennon, and then Lennon died too. So there's always connect. You can make any connection you want. But I never liked Geffen, and I thought Geffen was a very dangerous character. And then my daughter saying things to me like, I can get David Geffen to do anything I want. Going, wow, that's heavy. I wonder if she means it. And then Kurt died, and I said, oh, my God.
Well, this guy Epstein, he's convicted. He's a convicted sex offender. And the charges against him involved him having sex with 12, 13-year-old girls, up to 3 a day he was bringing to his mansion there. And he had other young women that were going out and recruiting these girls for him. And then he was sharing these girls with people like, according to the allegations in the litigation, with people like Prince Andrew and stuff like that. And
yeah, I heard that, yeah.
Right. So now Courtney Love, not David Geffen, she was on Jeffrey Epstein's plane with Jeffrey Epstein.
Right. No, I know, but I mean, she was running in that circle.
Right. Okay. And
anytime she wanted to get on anybody's plane, she could,
Right. And can she still now today? Because you know now she just sent out a flurry of cease and desist letters to anyone who's promoting this movie Soaked in Bleach, or even I guess we would get one too as well because we're discussing it. Anybody
like any 50-year-old whore, she's probably lost a little bit of her glitter in the underground sex scene. But she's well known from back in the day. Now, I have a connection that I do know is 100% solid. I'm not sure I should mention it on your show, but it's a major electronics corporation founder who was also in the government, who had a list, and Courtney had a Madam Guru girlfriend who was the head of his list. And so I know for a fact that Courtney was getting jobs and was doing hooking and seducing and setting up parties and stuff for these people down in Silicon Valley, Sunnyvale, and places like that. I didn't know about Florida, but I'm sure that they're all connected if you should think about it for a while.
Yeah, but you've heard other stories of Courtney Love being involved with underage girls as well.
Oh, absolutely. Oh no, absolutely. There were buddies of hers that were. Yeah.
Okay. But now
absolutely.
How can it be? She does get busted for little stuff, little tantrums and stuff like that. But how is it she's able to get away with all this?
Oh man, that's a big question. Courtney has the ability to convince people of almost anything, and you got to hang out with her for a while to find out what her head. She's got a. Let me just give it to you this way: if you believe in DNA, and you can hear my voice, you can tell I'm pretty intelligent. But her mother was much more intelligent than me. Her grandmother was much more intelligent than me. My only contribution was I have photographic memory, so I know how she thinks. I'm 100% sure she inherited some of that from me because when she was little, we used to play little memory games, and she was like, whoa, way ahead of me. So when she was 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 in that range growing up, I didn't get to see her very much. But I knew I had total exposure to her until she was 5, and then after she was 15, till she was about 18. So I did, people say you didn't know her, she denies she knew me, but the truth is I was her guardian and have paper proof of the state of Oregon that she was in my custody as her last guardian before she became emancipated.
What year did she become emancipated?
Trust me, I know who she is, and I know how it's very, very difficult for the average intelligent person to grasp how freaking brilliant she is. The woman is totally freaking brilliant. I'm proud of her. People say, why aren't you proud of your daughter? I'm proud of her. She's very brilliant, and she's done a lot of brilliant things, but she got off the track. Had they let me raise her, she would have been screwed up, but not the way she is now.
I hear you, man. Because my kid's turning out great, too. My daughter's 15 now. But let me ask you a question now. How old was she when she became emancipated?
I would have been 78, so she would have been 16 or 17.
And the other question is, now, at the age of 15, though, she was already pretty messed up on drugs.
Well, well, she was hanging in Oregon, in the streets of Portland she hated pot. She wouldn't smoke pot because it made her fat.
Okay.
She told me that many times. She hated it, but she loved heroin because it made her skinny and it killed her appetite. So she got into heroin fairly early on. I'm going to say 83 with some friends of hers. She was totally turned on by Elizabeth, a woman named Elizabeth who's an artist. And you got to read my book because I have a chapter on how art gets made. And some of our friends from L7, the lesbian grip band, that's all-girl band, called L7, and those kind of people. And that's who she was hanging out with and doing smack with. And she got into heroin, but I'm not sure it was. She was hanging out at a place in San Francisco called Mabuhay Gardens, and Jello Biafra and the Dead Kennedys were very popular in those days. And she was hanging out at a place called the Hams Bats, B-A-T-S. The Bats was an abandoned Hams brewery up on the hills in San Francisco overlooking the bay, which actually had people living there that were punk rock squatters and stuff up there. And she hung out with them. And that's where she was getting stoned, to start off with, not me. And I used to have to go and rescue her and drive her home from places that she went to. But she also had girlfriends who she was hanging out with, which are really rich girls from the society of San Francisco.
But she started heroin at 15 years old?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, boy. Yeah, I tell you, what a curse. What a curse.
She was smoking at 10 or 11.
Oh, my God.
She started smoking. Her mother smoked. Her grandfather, adopted grandfather, Jack Reese, smoked, blew smoke on her when she was an infant.
Really?
So that's what I really hold a grudge on those people for turning around and smoking cigarettes, because as far as I'm concerned, cigarettes are a gateway drug.
Yeah. Well, now let me ask you this. Now, the movie Soaked in Bleach, have you seen it?
Yeah.
Okay, you have. What do you think?
Oh, it's really well done, and I'm glad that Tom finally got his day in court, because I think people were trying to put Tom down ad hominem, personally attacking Tom. And Tom doesn't like me very much, but I applaud him for all the work he's done, and he deserves to get a movie.
Yeah, I just watched the movie this morning. A couple of things struck me, because you know me, I'm suspicious of everything, right? You know, Tom had to have gotten a big chunk of money for this work in this investigation than he did for Courtney Love. Do you have any idea how much he charged her?
Well, it goes over a long period of time, because the first initial contact was a chunk of change, but he would charge anybody like that whatever the standard rate was in Hollywood at the time, because he was a bodyguard as well as an investigator. He gave her the standard at first, and then she started to expand his role and hire him to do other jobs. And one of the jobs, by the way, was investigating me and digging up dirt on me and doing my criminal record, which I have a marijuana arrest. I have a couple of petty thefts from way back. I have a couple of trespasses, which are from standing in line in demonstrations and getting busted for, I never got busted, but I got written up, and I got it on the criminal record for trespass, that kind of stuff. So, I have a criminal record, no big deal. There's no sex jacket on it, there's no rape, or there's no kind of things like that on my record. It's all just like a couple of marijuana busts, really.
What year were the marijuana busts? What year were the marijuana busts?
What? Marijuana?
Yeah, what year?
My first bust was 62. 61, 62, but at San Jose, I got busted for seeds and stems. I actually had to do 90 days, and I did 60 days. It got cut loose, and I did probation, but it did interfere with me finishing my college degrees. So I was able to keep going.
Okay, so now when she first hired Tom Grant, it wasn't to locate Kurt Cobain. It was to investigate you. That was partially what she wanted him to do?
Well, she had a lot of people she was trying to get investigated. I was only one of the many on the list. She had all the people that were. She had a revenge list, of several people, including Chris Novoselic, who was in Nirvana, and the various people around town up in Seattle, and she also had lists of people in L.A. she wanted Tom to look into, and then she had jobs that she wanted Tom to do, including tap phones and listen in on people's conversations to get dirt on them, so that she could say I was. For example, she caught me in a conversation with a guy where she thought I said that I was something that would have made me look like I was anti-Semitic.
Right.
And I'm not anti-Semitic. I'm a Kabbalist. I've been studying Judaism for as long as I've studied any religion, and I have no hatred. In fact, nothing but great respect and love for especially the Jewish people that helped me personally by the droves. And old friends of mine that I grew up with were Jewish, and anybody that says I'm an anti-Semite is an idiot. So that was out of the question, and I finally proved that too. I almost had to take a lie detector test over everything that she tried to get against me, but no, she never. I'm not Simon Pure, but I'm not some kind of bad guy either. You know, right. She was just looking for anything she could do to get rid of me because she knew that I knew what was really going on in her background. She didn't want that leaked out. It's the stuff that she wanted to talk to investigate is the very stuff we're talking about right now on this radio station.
So she was having you investigated before Kurt died?
Oh, yeah.
By Tom Grant?
No, not by Tom Grant. It was after she found Tom Grant when Kurt disappeared.
Right.
And then after he died, there was a big lull in the fighting. And she wanted to keep Tom close at hand, so she hired him to keep an eye on him. And she gave him jobs to do. Okay, and one of the jobs he did was investigate me.
Gotcha. Okay, she was trying to keep him busy. She wanted to keep him on a payroll. She wanted to keep him distracted from Kurt stuff. Now, I listened to, there's a lot of the tape-recorded conversations between Tom and Courtney in the movie Soaked in Bleach. Now, when you hear that, she sounds to me, and not like some kind of a, she sounds like a greedy person. That's a self-centered person who's totally out for her own good. And that her motivation, go ahead.
Well, she's narcissistic, borderline personality.
So then how does that jive with these other theories about how she's giving away free LSD and traveling with 10,000 hits of LSD and some other kind of motivation behind her activities?
First of all, you're comparing apples and oranges.
Okay.
Okay, 1978, 79, and 80, she was only 16 and 17 and 18, right?
Okay.
And was still naive. She was still uninformed. All she had going for her was she had some money that her mother gave her, which she was blowing through. She made a deal with her mother where her mother would provide her estate from their estate. I have it on tape. I went to juvenile hall and I interviewed her and I said, "What happened to all the money?" She said, "There is no money." And I said, "Well, what are you talking about? There's all kinds of money." She said, "There's no money. Mommy said there was no more money." And I said, "Oh, there's money. Trust me." She said, "Prove it." I don't believe it. So here's where I made my mistake, and I got to admit this to the world because this was a giant mistake. I wanted a lot of revenge because I was hurt. So I said, "Here's what to do, Courtney. Come on down to San Francisco." I got permission from the whole state of Oregon. I got her on an airplane, private plane, flew her down to San Francisco, let her go, and I took her over to about a month before I got her back to come down to visit me. I ran into an old deadhead friend of mine who happens to be, just coincidentally, one of Courtney's estate, one of Linda's estate coordinators at the Wells Fargo Bank in San Francisco, standing in an ice cream line in San Francisco. And she says, "How's Courtney doing?" I says, "I don't know, man. I have to go see her in Oregon pretty soon." She says, "She's got a lot of money." I said, "I heard that, but I also heard the money was all gone." She said, No, it's all there. Don't worry, there's a lot there." And I said, "Well, I was told she didn't have any money anymore." "So she's got a lot." So I said, "Well, would you be willing to meet with Courtney if I brought her down?" She said, "Sure." So I took her to Wells Fargo after I got her down in San Francisco, and I trotted her in there. And here's where I made my mistake, because she went in, and she had a half an hour to an hour meeting with this woman. And when she came out of there, her eyes were the size of watermelons. And she said, "Holy cow, I am rich, huh?"
Wow.
I said, "Yeah, you are."
And Linda had been lying to her the whole time. And apparently this woman, I have her name written down. I don't want to divulge it, but this woman had showed her point after point, stock after stock, how much was in there. The last I heard, this was 1976, that the money was originally invested in 1965 or before, was in the $3.2 million range. Now, if you add that up and extrapolate that for modern, adjustments, you're looking at 7, 10, 12 million, who knows?
Right.
So it was Bosch and Lone stock, gold stock, and the satellite, satellite stock, and ComSat, and things like that. She had real estate in Oregon, which I didn't know about. I found out about. She had real estate from her mother. That's Courtney's adopted grandmother. Courtney's adoptive grandfather still had estates in San Francisco, apartments. They had all kinds of money stashed to avoid probate and all that kind of stuff. And one of the reasons it was in Courtney's name was so they could avoid probate and a Ferrari and Ricci fortune. So then, of course, when Mr. Ferrari died, all that money went to the corporate partnership, and Jack Ricci, who was Milton Ferrari's partner, got all of Milton Ferrari's money that was left over in the corporation too, because that's how partnerships work, corporate partnerships. So he got that, and that was all nothing. Some of that was still in Courtney's name. So what she did was she immediately went back up to Oregon and disappeared for about 3 or 4 months, and I didn't hear from her again for a while. When she came back, she had all this money. Apparently, she and Linda had come to some kind of accord where Linda she went and got emancipated, and Linda gave her a certain amount of money every month, or every 6 months, or something like that. And Courtney signed a deal and made a deal, so she was giving him a little estate. Now, it wasn't anything like the big money that she probably should have got, because she was too stupid. She wanted money right now. So instead of, holding on to a couple of years until she was 22 or 24 and getting the big money, she decided she'd take a little bill. And she was out there going, buying couture dresses and hot clothes and dancing and going out. She flew the SST to London a couple of times. I'll tell you the truth, man. She was spending big money, first class.
At
on
16
everything.
years old.
She'd come back broke, and she'd give all her clothes away that she just bought and to all of her girlfriends. And so, it was sort of like hitting the lottery twice a year for her. So this is one of my mistakes, because after that I had no control over her. I had no way of finding her, no way of... she'd show up when she wanted to, and she'd call me when she wanted to. She'd write me a letter telling me what she was doing once in a while. I became a totally tertiary character in her life.
But when was the big fallout where you guys started hating each other?
Well, that was after Kurt died.
After the death.
We had gotten back together. Well, I told her, first of all, I kicked her out in '84. I said, if you're doing heroin, you can't do it here. If you're bringing boyfriends in to turn tricks, or you can't do it here. And there's this woman named Kat Jelland, who's one of the leads of a group called Babes in Toyland, who was living with us at the time. And I had an absolute respect for Kat. She was helping. There's this big controversy in the public eye about who invented the baby doll look. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
There was this kind of fashion look called the baby doll look, or the kinder whore look, It was about like a corollary to grunge. It was like a female grunge look. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
But all the fashions eventually caught on. But my daughter and Kat Schellen developed that in my house. I saw that before my eyes.
Okay.
And I was amazed. They talked about it. They wrote it down. I have letters from her, and I have drawings from her and from Kat. And then she just dumped Kat and went on. When she got her money, Kat was out of the picture. And then suddenly Kat comes back into it with her own band, Babes in Toyland, and now Courtney wants to be in that band. And then Courtney runs out of money because the estate doesn't pay her. She spends all her money. And the next thing you know, she's back in Minneapolis ripping off Babes in Toyland. and butthole surfers. It's all well-known, documented stuff. It's in my book.
Okay.
So the chronology is what's a hard thing to keep. The average public person does not have the chronology right, and that's why it's all screwed up. But I have the chronology. I'm telling you right now, my daughter is a genius, and she is very creative. The trouble was, she got waylaid by the rock world, and how she decided to deal with it, and she would just wipe anybody out that was in her way. And so this Angelian woman, who is also a very gifted person, by the way, and she's back. She had a mental breakdown, sort of like she had some problems. Moved back to Minnesota, but now she's back on the road. So, and Courtney's jealous now that she's back on the road, because as far as she's concerned, she's destroyed babes in toilets. She can't believe they're back, and she's not doing her bad type of thing. She never did grow up. None of those people ever grew up, you know?
Hank,
so now they're all 50 years old, and they're still hating each other for shit. It blows my mind. They can't get along.
Hank, can I ask you a question? I was just chatting with John Potash, the author of Drugs as a Weapon Against Us, and he'd like to call in and ask you a couple of questions. Would that be okay?
Sure.
Okay, I'll have him call in now, okay? But now, you're saying that he's going to be calling in a second, but now you're saying that she would run out of money from the trust fund, and then she would start turning tricks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Precisely.
But also, too, occasionally she'd be acting as a madam as well and procuring girls for parties and stuff.
Girls and boys.
And boys.
Yeah.
How would she have access to these kids?
Well, when I say boys, I mean 14, 15-year-old young, good-looking guys.
Yeah.
That were gay. You know, gay boys, you know?
Okay, we're adding John to the group here. This is incredible. John Potash, author of Drugs as a Weapon Against Us. John, you there?
Yeah, I am, Ed. Thanks for having me on. And Hank, thanks so much. You're generous as always to give me a little bit of your time, and I don't want to take up much of it because I want you to have as much time as possible to talk about your side and your take on this whole situation.
Hey, man, you wrote a good book, man. You wrote a good book, dude.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Hank. I appreciate you.
I knew you were good, but I was surprised how good it really is.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, well, Hank, I appreciate you giving me so much information and sources and being so generous with all that information that you investigated on that scene and with Courtney, your daughter's life. As sad as it was for you too to go through all that with her.
Sure.
But it's there's one thing, Hank, I want to bring up that's very interesting because I kind of left out some stuff when you said that Steve O'Leary, was traveling with Courtney when she was 17 years old, and it's interesting that she was also with Steve had his brother with him for part of that time. You said, and
right.
Yeah, and I forgot his name, Robert or something O'Leary. Do you remember his name? Yeah, I think it was Robert.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Robert.
Yeah, so it's funny because I found his.
They're still around. They live in Minnesota. I know. I have their address and everything. I'm in touch with people.
Yeah. Well, because it's just interesting that I found the obituary for Steve O'Leary to back up what you said. And it showed that at the time you said he died, he wrote that letter. There's the obituary. He was in that place you said in England. And there was Robert, putting in his 2 cents about it all. What's that, Hank?
Venture. Oh, Ockenden Venture. Okenden.
Yeah, and that was a very interesting part of that journey too. And but what's another interesting thing is there's a Robert O'Leary who became very wealthy. Who there's been media articles about why is Robert O'Leary hanging out with Courtney Love? And this just came out.
Who are these guys, Robert O'Leary and Stephen O'Leary? Who are they?
Recently.
Who?
Recently?
Yeah, recently, within the last 5 years, yeah. Steve
Really?
O'Leary was a CIA agent, Ed.
Oh, really?
They were.
Yeah.
They were. I knew they were.
Isn't that incredible?
I knew they were. I knew where they were in Northern Ireland. They were spotters for the CIA in Northern Ireland.
Isn't that wild?
I do that.
And he's still hanging out with Courtney Love now.
Well,
That's crazy,
it just came out in the media that the media is saying, why is this Robert O'Leary, this super wealthy guy, hanging out with Courtney Love? What's he doing with her? But I don't know if it's the same Robert O'Leary. Maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe it's just the same name, but it's an awfully strange coincidence.
Mr. Potash, you better check that one out, buddy.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to spread that because that's just. Yeah, it could be just a coincidence.
No. I mean it. You do it. I'll help you because that's the one, dude. You could prove that connection. We're in Bat City because that's what I've been trying to prove all along. Was there's been some shit going down? They weren't telling me, but what your fans, some of your fans, and some of the fans of this show are thinking is, I was the guy, and I didn't know shit.
Mm-hmm.
I was completely in the dark.
Of course you were. Yeah. Yeah, and it's crazy. I'm sorry, some people are trying to smear you with this stuff too, Hank. Because I mean, you were just hanging. Yeah, you were just doing your thing, and here's this woman being cultivated by your ex-wife who was, messed up herself because her father, Reese, had abused her as a little kid. So she's a mess, Linda Carroll, and then they're attacking you. They're taking custody away from you, putting you through your depression. And then you get reached out to by your daughter after she's taken away from you, and of course you follow your paternal instincts and get her out of detention. You find that they created a monster. Sadly enough, I mean, I'm sorry you experienced that, but then you try to help her out. She comes to Dublin and she's doing this crazy stuff. Going around with CIA agents and all that. And how are you supposed to know what's going on with that stuff?
Yeah, well, there's a woman named Robin Barber, Barbur, from Portland, who came with her and traveled with her during that whole period. And Robin's still available. She's up in Oregon somewhere, I think in Portland. I think she's working as a hairstylist up there.
Okay.
And that's another connection you can check out. And there's another woman named Brandy Miller, Miller. I tracked Brandy down. And Brandy had a little sister named Kim, and they all know completely what happened. But between the time she was 15 and the time she was 19, to fill in the blank. So, you're right. I mean, the reason I haven't admitted it makes me sound. One way I sound like a really evil guy, and the other way I sound really stupid.
Well, let me ask you both a question here. How old was she?
They duped the brightest people in our generation. They duped John Lennon. They duped Jimi Hendrix. They duped all the best and brightest of our generation. They've got vast networks. So to say you were duped too is nothing. Is no serious criticism at all.
Wait, but my question
we've all been duped.
Wait, my question is Courtney Love. Wait, Hank, hold on. Courtney Love in Dublin was how old?
She was 16. She turned 17, right, Hank?
Yes, 17, just going on 18, right.
And how old was the CIA agent?
Oh, an adult.
Well, Steve Leary, who died of a strange pancreatic explosion in his chair in his living room in Minnesota, I don't know. He was a deadhead. He was probably...
he was your age, Hank.
No. Much younger than me.
You're much younger than you?
I'm 75. I'm 75 years old yesterday, dude.
Everyone's younger than you.
Mm-hmm.
When everybody meets me, they say, "Hey, you can't be that old." I'm going, "I'm old."
But when this guy was in Dublin, he was in his 30s, and we're saying about, right?
Right, exactly. And I was at least 10 years older.
And you met this guy, Hank, right?
Oh, Steve Leary?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a close friend of mine. Smoked weed with him, everything. Went out in traffic with him, drove around. Got caught in a rainstorm, did all kinds of stuff. Went to all the different megalithic monuments and stuff. Went up to his house in Carrigart in Northern Ireland and went to his house in Belfast and met his girlfriend. So the whole thing, I knew the whole family.
Okay, and he was openly told you that he worked for the CIA.
Later, he didn't at that time, no, but it was obvious. But at the time, he did not verbally tell me that because he was under oath not to tell me, of course. But later on, after he retired, he told me and wrote me a letter, and I have the letter.
Okay,
I
good.
have several letters.
Hey, send us the letter. Hey, now also, let me ask you this. What was his function for the CIA?
Well, he was a spotter. He was a station observer. he was out there planting trees. There was a couple covers they gave me. He went back for a couple of stations, for a couple of different trips, and one of the reasons he was there was to plant trees and set up a youth group and run the youth, youth authority type of thing. So they would have billiard tables and swimming pools and things like that. On the other hand, he was busy reporting back to Dublin, to the American Embassy in Dublin. And I think once a month or so, we'd go down to Dublin from Belfast off the train, which is a 3-hour round trip. And he'd pop into the American Embassy and give us a little report. And I didn't know what the hell he was doing, but I figured he had to be doing something, because what the hell was he doing there? He was getting money, he was getting paid. So I figured it was something to do with the American government. I thought it was some kind of Lend-Lease policy program for youth. So I was like, how stupid could you be, Harrison, you dumbass?
How are you supposed to know these things?
I'm looking back on it and thinking, man, you're a dumbass. But I'm not sure that even if I knew, I would do anything differently, because I didn't see them as evil or doing anything wrong, really. There's a big riot going on. There's a war going on over there. And they were just keeping an eye on American interests to make sure that I guess they were worried about, Cuban or communist Chinese infiltration or something like that.
But Hank, how did you know about his brother? How did you know? Was Robert CIA too?
Yeah, Robert was major CIA. He's the guy that got him involved. And I don't even know if his name was really Robert, but the thing is, he had his sister was involved. His sister was still involved. I have friends now that know them personally and still stay in touch with them. I could hand you their phone number tonight if you want it.
Wow. Yeah, I just wonder.
They love me. They love me, man. They think I'm a cool guy.
No, you are.
Yeah,
you are.
But they could be dangerous, I tell you.
They won't talk to me, though, as a family member on the CIA issue, because they think that I'm going to try to exploit their family. And also, Steve, here's another thing. Steve went back to Minnesota. Not Robert, but Steve went back to Minnesota, and he married an Asian woman, which I thought was very, very peculiar. And she was very eager to get her hands on Steve's money. And then there was some kind of weird deal where he had a pancreatic attack or pancreatic cancer and died in a really sudden attack.
Yeah.
And after that, they didn't talk about it. I went to the funeral. I sent a letter to the family in the funeral that he had. And I've got it all written down, and I've got it on file. So if you guys want to see all that material, more than likely. I didn't know you knew about that.
No, I got it. I got it wrong about Robert. It's Kevin O'Leary is the name I got.
Kevin.
Kevin's his name, and that's what I saw in the obituary. I saw Kevin, and that's what I saw in. I'm looking on TMZ, and it says Courtney Love hooks a shark, date or deal with Kevin O'Leary, and they covered them hanging out, enjoying dinner together at TMZ. And so Kevin's his name, right?
That explains a lot. Kevin and Courtney, that explains a lot, man.
And he looks the age you're talking about.
Wait till my wife hears that; she'll love that.
What does it explain, Hank?
Huh?
What does it explain?
Oh, it makes sense. Now it all sort of falls into places how they all got buddies, because Courtney went on. What happened was, when Courtney wanted to, I was still trying to look out for Courtney, even though I still saw her as kind of naive. And so Steve had a girlfriend, and Kevin wasn't there. So I sent Steve along, and I said, hey, Steve, keep an eye on Courtney, will you, while you're on the road? So I didn't know they were going to go to Auckland Adventure, but they went on the ferry to Liverpool, and they went from Liverpool down to Surrey and London, and they wound up at this place called Auckland Adventure, which was definite CIA front house. Absolutely.
For Vietnam refugees from the, yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things, that Polish and Vietnamese, during the Gdansk times, and Vietnamese too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my wife and I cooked like 127 quiche Lorraine for them at their house. And we fed all these Vietnamese refugees and stuff. It was a very interesting experience. We stayed there after we went down there. We stayed there for about a week. We got an eyeful. We really got an eyeful. Oh, they didn't want us around anymore, man. And they kept getting these phone calls, get rid of Hank and Trina, get rid of Hank and Trina, man. They're not supposed to be there. So we had to get, they elbowed us out, you know. But we got to see a lot while we were still there.
Yeah, it's a weird coincidence that Mark David Chapman was brought to a Vietnamese refugee camp in the United States before he ended up, killing John Lennon. And so it's just a weird coincidence. That's all I can say.
Well, Handlers, since I have you guys on the phone, I got to ask you this question. In all of your research, have you run across any connection between Versace's killer and any of that?
I haven't done any research on that. I know nothing.
I have not. Only what you told me, Hank. Only what you,
man,
because she was there,
Courtney,
at the mansion.
Courtney was stealing robes and clothes from Versace. She knew Gianni, and she said, "Hey, Gianni, let me have a couple of dresses and stuff." And he said, "Oh, sure. Here's the key." And they let her go to the mansion. He was down having coffee, reading the paper while she went over there. He thought she was going to take a couple of dresses and maybe a pair of shoes out of his special closet that he had, whatever. Turns out she rented a truck.
I'm sorry, guys.
She cleaned that out, man. I said, "That's my girl."
Okay, real quick, before we get to Versace. Now, me and Hank were talking about Courtney Love. We were talking about the Epstein case, and then we were talking about Courtney Love turning tricks. And Hank was telling me that Courtney was even responsible for being like a madam and procuring escorts for parties and even underage prostitutes for parties, is what Hank is alleging tonight. Now, what did you come up with on that kind of stuff there today, John? Any questions on that area?
I never heard, Hank, you didn't tell me that part of things, but she was just so out there that I can believe it. I hear you. I know. I mean, I can believe it. She was just so out there that I can totally believe it. And, it's always, the unbelievable thing is it's always even sicker than we can even describe, and then we even know.
Tell you what, off the air, I'll give you the names and you can double check on it because the names are, I've got them disguised as Frenchie and Mike Marcellet, but their real names are something else. But anyway, you can call me and I'll give you the information. And the reason I'm giving you this information now is because I've been looking for them for the last couple of weeks or months, trying to track down Frenchie and Mike, and they're gone as far as my skills are concerned. So I can't find them anymore. But I knew where she was. The answer to the madam situation isn't so much that Courtney herself did the recruiting, but that she knew this Frenchie chick who definitely had the access to the recruiting.
If we heard these names, would we recognize the names?
I doubt it, because it's really underground. We'd recognize the customer's name.
Hank, how did you know that Courtney was tricking for David Packard?
Well, that's the Frenchie Marcellet connection again.
Yeah, so you like it. Well, how did you find that out? I never understood how you exactly found that out.
What happened was when we went to Ireland, I came back from Ireland. I had to have a place to live because my apartment was given away and I lost my car and I was broke, so I went and crashed at Frenchie's house. And I forgot that Frenchie was, I thought she was retired, but it turns out she was still active. And she had a nice house, and she charged me rent, and I was able to pay a little bit of rent, so I got the basement. And by the way, she used to have a S&M place, and she got.
Tell me that.
What I had a buddy who was a cop who was working for her as a bodyguard at one time, and so I made that because I used to teach criminology at San Jose State, and I have it all. I could prove it all. I've got it all written down. It's so freaking fantastic. I had to keep it all. I didn't even know it was that crazy until I started realizing this stuff is all connected. So then I started writing it all down. It's still incredible to believe. But this guy, Tom, not Tom Grant, but another Tom, he's dead now. He died of AIDS, by the way. He took me under his wing, and we were going to write a book together. And then That didn't work out, but he introduced me. I said, listen, I need a place to stay for a couple of weeks until I get back on my feet coming back. I was in Europe for 2.5 years, and it was in '82 I came back from Europe, and Courtney was still over there. And I came back, and he said, oh, yeah, you can stay with Frenchie. So I went and made friends with Frenchie and Mike, and they were nice to me. They put me up in their house, and they paid me, and I paid rent, and I got to see all the people that were coming through the house. Man, you know, I'd be sitting there in the living room, and here they'd come, and they were coming to go. I got to go now, Hank. I got to go now. Could you give us some privacy, Hank? And I'd go down to my room, and so forth. And so, you know, I was looking for a job, and I actually had a tech writer's job lined up at a place called Dr. Dobbs magazine in Menlo Park. And so I would commute down there most of the time, but I'd come back and have dinner there and sleep there at night and stuff. And it went on for a while. It was later January. I didn't leave until summer of '82, and I left in after Christmas, early part of January of '83. I was editor of Dr. Dobbs, so I took off from Menlo Park. It took about 6 months I was there. So I got to see all this stuff. Plus, because I'm a no-good son of a bitch, I was in there when they weren't around, going through their cabinets. And, man, I got pictures. I got films to prove it. I got a 8mm video to prove it. I got stuff you can't believe, man. And I just said, you know, I want to hang on to this stuff someday. It might come in handy.
Wait, what'd you find in the cabinets?
Oh, you name it, dude. I mean, lists of names and notebooks and journals and old magazines and a lot. Mike, the husband, was a notorious paranoid anti-government guy, and he had all these magazines. And they also had all these books called "How to Do Dirty Tricks," "How to Take Revenge on People That Have Hurt You," "Don't Get Mad, Get Even," those kind of books, you know, anarchist cookbook. All that stuff. Stacks and stacks of this stuff. How to disappear.
But Hank, you thought that Frenchie Marsan might have been, you know, I know she's got a different name, but Frenchie might have been Courtney Love's handler for a number of years?
Well, what had to have happened after '82, because I left.
Okay.
And I think she was handling her to, I don't think as a CIA agent necessarily, but who knows?
Well, just a madam, as the madam, yes.
As doing the madam thing and getting the tricks for her and turning around to Japanese Yakuza, that's for sure. I know that because I met those guys. Well, they were creepy. They were creepy dudes. They had the tattoos and everything.
So Courtney Love, when she was in Japan, hooked up with the Yakuza?
Yeah, of course.
For what purpose? What
I'm
was
not
she
kidding,
No,
man.
but what was she
doing?
Kidding. I know, I believe you, man. But, you know, what was she doing with them?
Well, she was fucking them, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
She was working.
Yeah,
she was working in. She was working in nightclubs. She told me she was working in nightclubs.
Okay, listen. It's really important that we watch our language because I want to play this. I want to be able to play
Gotcha.
this.
In Melissa Rossi's biography, in Melissa Rossi's biography, she admits prostituting in Taiwan. So yeah. So there's backing for what you're saying, you know, with other biographies, like more mainstream biographies saying she admitted, you know, prostituting in Taiwan. So she got around. It's crazy.
What I got out of your book was these generals in Alaska. I didn't know anything about that. I knew she went to the pipeline because she was having affairs with guys on the pipe, truck drivers and stuff, but I didn't know they were generals or anything. I didn't have that.
That's what she told James Moreland and was reprinted in, you know, those guys Halpern and Wallace's book about, you know, what she told James Moreland and what James Moreland, her first husband, told
James himself has got a tendency to be a slight embellisher when it comes to that stuff, but also Courtney would naturally embellish stuff to James because. It was along the lines that he was freaked out by it. You know, he wasn't saying to like brag or embellish. He was saying because he was freaked out by it because he thought he'd married a radical leftist feminist. And it turns out, he says, he married a right-wing Phyllis Diller, and he was scared for his life. I love it because it's probably true.
Yeah, it's crazy stuff. But, yeah.
She threatened to kill him and have his kneecaps, have somebody break his kneecaps.
Hey, let me ask you a question. Now, with all these threats that she's always throwing around, has anybody ever gotten their kneecaps broken?
Yeah, Moreland said that she had people come and beat him up when he didn't follow through on something she told him to do.
Well, I don't know if that actually happened, but who knows? He could have.
Well, I mean, he said it.
What we have to be careful of here, I think, is heaping stuff on Courtney. She's already evil enough. There's no need to add any embellishments because.
Yeah, no, I'm just quoting the book sources that quoted him kind of stuff. Yeah, I'm not going to add anything to it. Sure, no, I hear you about that.
The thing is, it has a tendency to break down the credibility of some of the other and the veracity of some of the other comments that I've made because nobody freaking believes me anyway, man. I mean, nobody believes that any of this is even possible. If you think you're seeing flying saucers, this is science fiction, man. And yet, I know for a fact it happened.
Hank, thanks so much. I got to go to my job now, but I really appreciate your help with this case. And yeah, I'm doing counseling. I got a private office at night, so I got to run to that.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah, I don't. Yeah, there's not much money in writing. It's counseling pays the bills, not the writing.
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you, John Potash, author of Drugs as a Weapon. Drugs used as a weapon.
Drugs as weapons against us. Yeah. Thanks, Ed.
We're
Thanks,
going to
Hank.
get together sometime, man. Let's get together.
Yeah, Hank. So I'm going to give you a call, Hank, when I'm out there for sure. Okay, you're in San Fran or Seattle? I forget. Sacramento. Yes, I still got all your information, so I'll definitely give you a ring when I'm coming out that way. Okay.
Okay, buddy.
I look forward to it. Take care, you guys.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
John. Thank you so much. Hey,
you're welcome.
I'll tell you what, Hank. Why don't we take a quick little commercial break, okay, for like 4 minutes, and then we'll come back and we'll wrap up. You tell us whatever you want to leave us with, and we'll go with that, okay?
Okay, buddy.
Thank you, man. Okay, now I'm going to play this little commercial break, but if we talk over the commercials, the audience can hear us talking. So it's about 4 minutes. I'll let you know when it's over, okay?
Okay.
Thank you, sir. And now a word from our sponsors. We are listener-sponsored, and we appreciate your donations. If you like the show, please visit OppermanReport.com and click on the donate button. Or you can donate directly through PayPal at OppermanReport@gmail.com. We have Mike Ray of InfinityHomePlans.com. He's the host of Parlay over at CJ Mars Radio, Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you need custom home designs, stock plans, or 3D work, he's your one-stop shop for home design and drafting needs. Mike Ray at InfinityHomePlans.com. At InfinityHomePlans.com.
Oh, well. Happy birthday.
If you're looking for essential oils, stop by and check out Essentially Tammy on Facebook. She is Young Living Essential Oils Independent Distributor. Now, these are 100% therapeutic-grade oils. They help support the body's natural functions. You can visit her website posted on Essentially Tammy to see the current deals, or email at Jocotami, JOCATAMI @yahoo.com, or call 352-239-8546. 352-239-8546. Hey, if you need a private investigator, go to my website, emailrevealer.com. We offer asset searches, locates, skip tracing, adoption investigations, online infidelity investigations. We can recover deleted text messages from a cell phone or trace an email to online dating websites to catch people cheating. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can call 800-572-9762. 800-572-9762 for emailrevealer.com, my PI website. Pacific West Bamboo. It's your premier source for construction and craft-grade bamboo poles. They're announcing their latest project with EcoHead Event Sanitation, making bamboo composting bathrooms and porta potties. Their first display will be at the Lucidity Festival in Santa Ynez, California, April 11th to the 13th. Come by and say hi and see what you can build with bamboo. Contact them for any kind of event planning, display building. If you need construction grade or craft grade bamboo products, call Amanda at 503-839-8126, 503-839-8126, or visit PacificWestBamboo.com, their brand new website. We're also sponsored by the New World Mexican Women. This is a rural Mexican craft women's cooperative. They are traditional makers of fine handcrafted, authentic jewelry with beautiful stone mosaics, Pacific blue abalone inlay. They have a wonderful book of love letters written to their men in the United States, begging them to return to their families in Mexico. But they've written a new book, and it's it's about a young girl that falls in love with a rodeo bull rider and runs off with him without telling her family. It's a beautiful love story called Azuquina Part 1, Azuquina to the Rodeo. You can find their books and jewelry by clicking on their banner ad at OppermanReport.com or by Googling New World Mexican Women.
Hello?
Playing ads.
I'm here.
We're still playing ads. We're still playing ads. You can also promote your business or website right here and have your ad played all over the world 7 days a week by emailing OppermanReport@gmail.com or calling 800-572-9762. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. The show is brought to you by Audible.com. You go to Audible. Oh, you got to go, Hank?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, the show is brought to you by Audible.com. You go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. Get yourself a free audio book. And this is one of our shows that we're doing in the members section only that will be broadcast later on. So if you're hearing this on the radio, this was originally recorded about 30 days ago. Then this is the kind of stuff that we have in our members section. Really riveting content that you're not going to find anywhere else. That's guaranteed. And you go to OppermanReport.com and you sign up for the members section. It's really cheap. Helps support the show and helps us do these extra shows. And the extra shows that we do for you during the week, spontaneous shows we do Saturday night, Sunday night, stuff like that. We are here today with Hank Harrison, the father of Courtney Love. He's given us some really startling information here that we've discussed. Originally, we were going to talk about the soaked in bleach, but we've gotten into some really fascinating stuff. Hank, I would say that the headline for the show, to take away from this, would be Courtney's connection to the CIA guy in Dublin, wouldn't you?
Well, it's news to me, and that's because I was there when it happened, and I was too stupid to see it happening. So, yeah, it's got to be true.
But has it ever been reported in the press before?
No, they fooled me.
Gotcha. So,
no,
Hank,
but actually, I remember being there. I met Kevin, and I'm in touch with the family now, and I have a family friend, buddy of mine, who's a electron microscope expert who's retired, who was Kevin's good friend and Steven's good friend, and he's retired now, and he's still in Minnesota, and I could call him today and talk to him about it, and I'm sure it's real. I'm sure it's 100% real, except I don't know if you can extrapolate whether Kevin had anything to do with recruiting Courtney to do anything recently. I don't know about that part, but I know that he was definitely linked to a place called Ockenden Venture in London, outside of London in Surrey, and I was there, so I saw that happening.
And that was the Vietnamese refugee center.
Yeah,
right.
It was a Polish relief they were sending to Gdansk at that time. There was the Gdansk Revolution, and then there was Vietnamese boat people coming through because they couldn't be all taken to the west coast of California, so they had to send them elsewhere. And one of the places they sent them was London. And so there's a lot of Vietnamese over there now, thanks to Ockenden Venture bringing them in. And there's some very interesting characters at the head of that Ockenden Venture. But they didn't tell me they were CIA, but they had to have some kind of connection.
Well, give me an example. What was so interesting about them?
Well, the money was there just when they needed it. If they ran out of money, they'd just make a phone call and then the money'd be there.
Gotcha.
And it was supposed to be funded by an Episcopalian church group. And my experience with churches is that they usually make you wait a week to get the money. This was like instantaneous. We did a benefit for the Vietnamese boat people. We had like 135 people that came in to have a lunch. We made quiche, Lorraine, and various other things. My wife and I are expert chefs, and we were just for fun put together a couple thousand eggs and a couple thousand quiche, and we made quiche with the outdoor tables. And suddenly there was just this huge amount of money for food. And trucks showed up, and it was kind of well funded, and I was surprised that it was so well funded. But
okay,
the guy that ran the place, the guy that ran the place had 2 wives living with him.
Oh, really? Okay, that's a good one too.
It's so crazy, man. You'd have to talk to my wife because her take on it's more rational than mine. But yeah, it was crazy, and we knew. We knew that they were politically linked. It was obvious that they had some political link. We didn't think CIA at the time, but then, of course, we did realize that after a while they had to be, because what else would it be? You know, it had to be some State Department connection or something.
Now, Kevin Leary,
yes.
When you mentioned Kevin Leary, you said, oh, he was high up in the CIA. What was his duties in the CIA?
Well, he had superiority over his brother. He was his brother. I guess I can explain to you that you'd have to see. They said stuff like when Kurt died.
Yeah.
The way it was described to me was this: Kurt Cobain dies. Wife is Courtney Love. Her father is Hank Harrison of the Grateful Dead. And Kevin turned to Steve and said, "That's our Hank Harrison?" And Steve said, "Yep, that's Hank." Well, Courtney, is that Courtney? Is that the Courtney with Ockenden with us? Because her name wasn't Courtney Love at the time. And Steve says, "Yep, that's Courtney." And, of course, Steve did take LSD with Courtney. And I think they had an affair, too, but I didn't say anything. And so, you know, Steve was all apologetic that he had an affair with my daughter. I said, "Hey, dude, you know, she's over 18. You know." But it never dawned on me that they were heavy into the CIA thing. That took a while to put that together.
Well, this is fascinating information, you know, because now on the one hand, right, what would their interest in Courtney be besides their friendship with you?
Well, that was it. They thought, I used to be a big deal, okay, and I'm not a big deal anymore. At the time, I thought I was a big deal, and I guess I was a big deal. Whatever. A lot of people have said to me, "If it worked for you, you know, blah blah blah." So okay, so. When I had that kind of respect going for me, my daughter came along. Steve took care of her for me and got her safely to London, where she was then wound up in Liverpool, hanging out with Adam Ant and Echo and the Bunnymen and all these other people that were in the punk scene over there, which is what she wanted to get into. So this was after she left Ockenden. So on the way down there on the train and on the ferry from Dublin to Liverpool, there was this guy, Steve Leary, had a girlfriend. And there was this other guy named Jamie who was a broker for a wool manufacturer in Northern Ireland and Scotland. And they started hanging out together. So Jamie started having an affair with Steve's old lady, Steve's girlfriend. And Courtney took Steve aside and said, you're a sap, man. You know she's having an affair with Jamie, don't you? And he said, yeah, I know. Well, I'm going to kill myself. So Courtney actually shrunk the guy's head on the train and on the boat. And she held his hand the whole time, and they went down, they took acid together over Christmas. And she stayed at Auckland Adventure and all that stuff. She must have stayed there a couple of weeks. And that's how they got to know each other. Kevin was there. And that's how they got to know her, see, because she actually counseled Jamie away from his suicidal tendencies. I don't know. At age 16, she was that good.
Okay, so then
she was active.
What you're describing then is more of Courtney Love inserting herself into this guy, the CIA agent's life, rather than the other way around.
Yeah, but she didn't know he was CIA at the time. She just thought there was some dumb sap whose girlfriend was breaking up with him. You should read his comments. If you read my book, it's all in my book.
Never got around to reading your book, man. I have to confess, and I definitely have to, man.
You got to. I spent a lot of time crafting it just right so everybody would get. Because if you don't read it, you're going to say, this couldn't have happened.
Yeah, I believe you
but
sent
if you
me.
see it, it couldn't have possibly happened. It's just like totally. You know, believe me, I'm good at fiction, but I couldn't have made this up. This is just too good to be true, and it is true.
Yeah, I believe you sent me a PDF copy of your book the last time we talked. I've never gotten around to reading it.
Well, you know, if you give me an email address, I'll be happy to send you a free one now because I got a brand new versions of it, upgraded, updated, and everything. So I can say it's in 5. Unfortunately, it's in 5 sections because it has to be put together by the reader, simply because it's too big to ship with the pictures and everything as one unit.
Gotcha.
But it's there. It's all there. It's called Love Kills: The Assassination of Kurt Cobain. And I've told people on your program before, if they want a free copy, all they got to do is send me an email to Zendog, ZENDOGG, @gmail.com. And I'll send me their email, and I'll send them a free copy by email. I don't care. If it does ever go to publication, it'll sell thousands of copies anyway, and I'll make my money back. So I'm not really worried about it.
Maybe we can do something where we can meet up in person there at your horse farm, and we could videotape an interview, and then we could put that out on Amazon. I think we'd sell a couple thousand copies of that as well, and we can split the money. But let me ask you this.
Yeah, sure.
Because I think this stuff is important information. Let me ask you this. Because the original purpose of this interview, before we got into all this incredible information, was this movie Soaked in Bleach. Now, you mentioned that Tom Grant doesn't like you, okay?
Right.
Such a likable guy. What's your problem with Tom
He
Grant?
is.
No, you are. You're a likable guy. What's your problem? What's his problem with the Hank Harrison?
Oh, well, look, here's the thing. If I say anything, I'm damned if I'm do and I'm damned if I don't, because if I say anything to answer your question, it's going to be considered as me bad rapping Tom. The last thing I want to do is bad rap Tom, because he's the guy that's going to pull the trigger on getting the whole thing started with the case history and all that stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I don't want to say anything negative, but I got a feeling I see down the road a piece, I can see an obstruction on the tracks. And one of those obstructions is that at some stage or another, somebody's going to accuse Tom of being right-wing. Really, really right-wing, man. Because he knows that I'm Grateful Dead people,
Yeah.
And he knows who I am. He's checked me out. He knows what I do. I am the real guy. And if you check me out, that's me. I'm the guy. I hung out with David Crosby. I hung out with Bill Lesh. I hung out with Jerry Garcia. Jerry Garcia is my worst failure as an anti-heroin abuse guy. I tried to get him to quit heroin. He wouldn't do it. I have pals. And along the line, I managed to make some mistakes, and I made some successes, okay? Tom has checked out my record thoroughly all the way back, and, man, Tom doesn't like what he read or what he found. The reason is because, don't forget, Tom was Paula Jones' bodyguard during the Clinton second election, right?
Yeah.
Remember when they were saying Paula Jones, that Clinton raped Paula Jones and all that stuff?
Yeah, Paula Jones is a friend of mine. I'm doing an interview with Paula Jones coming up.
Well, ask her what she thinks of Tom Grant, man, because Tom was her bodyguard.
Oh, okay, I will.
Yeah.
Okay, very good.
I'm not lying.
No, I don't think you're lying. I would never accuse you of lying.
If I'm lying, I'm dying.
Yeah.
So here's this guy that has extreme right-wing views.
Gotcha.
He's a little bit left of the Koch brothers, but not much. Yeah. Or maybe even right. Who knows? I mean, he's probably mellowed out over the years, but he took one look at me and said, "Oh, this guy's way on the wrong side of the political spectrum," and he doesn't like my attitude towards organizations and where I can come from. I'm not a communist, but I'm certainly an old radical, liberal radical guy, and I've stuck to that, over the years. And I voted for Hillary, and I'll vote for Hillary. I mean, I voted for Obama, and I'll vote for Hillary, That's where I'm coming from. I'm not apologizing for it, but Tom apparently finds that to be odious and difficult to deal with. So that's the way it goes. So I try not to offend him. The guy's built like a left tackle on a football team anyway. He's really a nice guy, but he's a healthy guy. He's got a right to do this. He landed into a pile of crap when he met Courtney in the first place, but now that and by the way, she used him.
Yeah.
And I think Tom everybody knows that he was kind of duped. He's not stupid, but he just got cleverly duped by a very clever person. And I think he's trying to get back even in his own head about what happened, and he's got the facts to prove it. So why shouldn't he? I'm all for him. That's why I'm not saying anything bad about Soaked in Bleach, because it's a pretty good movie. And it's funny because I didn't have the material. Tom wants to keep that whole case strictly on his material. Here's the problem. I'm guaranteeing you, and this is the blockade down the road, down the tracks, she will never be brought to justice on Tom Grant's material alone.
Then what additional material is there out there that you think would...
Stuff we've been talking about.
Okay.
He doesn't like me to bring up anything because he says, well, I should be defending her. I'm a father. I should defend her. And that's what all the Soaked in Bleach people, he's got thousands of people working for him now that come out and say stuff. Hank, if I had a kid, I'd be supporting love my child unconditionally. Well, what? She just killed the most important poet of the 21st century, for Christ's sake, and you think, I'm not going to support her. That's crazy. But I'm a hippie, right? What do they know? I'm a beatnik. What do they know? I'm not coming from the unconditional love world. I don't believe in unconditional love. And so my whole theory about why I'm doing this thing about Courtney is because she attacked me first. I'm giving her a spanking, one big giant cosmic spanking. And she deserves it and she needs it. She should have never gone over the line because she didn't need to kill Kurt. She didn't need to do what she did. She had all the talent in the world. She had all the money in the world. She didn't need to do this, but she got greedy and she went over the line, and that's where she made her big mistake. In addition to the immorality of murder, per se. And, so she got screwed up. And I'm sorry. People say, well, you're throwing her to the wolves. Don't worry, man. The wolves always get fed by somebody. The jackals always eat in the long run. I didn't have to throw her to anybody or to anything to get her. She's already stumbled on her own, fallen on her own petard, on her own sword several times. She's made so many mistakes, and she's confessed so many times. If you just read the material, you can see that she's just confessing like crazy, and nobody really has the brain power to bring her down because nobody can believe she's that smart.
Hey, I got one more question for you before I forget. Are you familiar with the name Sam Lufty?
No.
Because he was Britney Spears' manager, and she lived with him, and he was...
I heard him.
Yeah, and he was pretty much right there on the scene the whole time. Britney Spears was having her meltdown, her breakdown, and he was the guy there who was controlling Britney Spears at the time. Now, he's hooked up with Courtney Love recently. What do you know about that? Anything?
No. Hey, but listen.
Yeah.
Hollywood's loaded with people that are willing to come along and hook up with all these,
Right.
power. It's just Sam is only one example. But yeah, I mean, I heard that they let people get access to certain records of David Geffen's material in order to try to get him busted for stuff he did, and it didn't go very far.
Trying to get David Geffen busted.
Yeah.
Busted for what?
For income tax fraud
Okay.
and all kinds of stuff like that.
Okay.
And it didn't go very far. I mean, Hollywood is like a big, giant castle with a big, multiple alligators around it, Because she had several top advisors, including Rosemary Carroll as her lawyer, who was also Kurt's lawyer. And now Rosemary's suffering some very bad guilt feelings, I hear. And then Dave Grohl wrote a song about her. Anyway, this is all dribbling on. The point is, somewhere down the road, Tom, I'm glad Tom's successful, and I hope he does do some good with this. I'm not sure that this is going to do much, but just sort of flare up, do some damage, draw some attention of the younger generation, especially, who have never heard some of Tom's material before, and do some really good cleanup. One of the things that Tom told me while we were still talking, and I thought this was very cool, we both agreed on this, was that one of the things Tom felt bad about was all the people that killed themselves after Kurt killed himself, so to speak, or after somebody said Kurt killed himself, right? All these people did these copycat suicides, and Tom felt bad about that. And I said, I sort of agree with him. I do too.
Yeah, I hear you, man. So listen, we got only a couple of minutes left. Why don't you promote whatever website you have, or whatever books you want to sell? People want to get a hold of you. What do you want to tell people?
Well, my my email is Zendog, Zendogg, at gmail.com. My website, I have several websites, but the HankHarrison.com website is the one directly about me, and it goes into the lie detector test that I got 5 years ago, covering Courtney telling people that I gave her acid when she was 5. Which is ridiculous. But I had to get a lie detector guy to come in and do it because nobody freaking believed me. I guess people were looking at me as I was walking through the grocery store going, oh, did he really give her acid? So I had this lie detector test made. And that's there on the Hank Harrison, www.hankharrison.com. Then there's another one, www.archives.com, which is ARKs, and K is ARKIVES, archives.com. And that one has all the books and publications on it. So you can do all those things if you want. Write me a letter. If you want a free copy of the Love Kills book or any of the books that are on the archives list, just go ahead and write me an email at zendog.com, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can.
Okay, anything you want to leave us with before we go?
Well, thanks for being... the funny thing about you is that you're so cool. What you're doing is, like, unbelievable, stuff. And you're digging up stuff that anybody else will handle. And I'm so pleased that you're doing the research and the work you're doing. I hope that you keep going and you can break even at least.
Yeah, good luck on that one. Break even. That's a good one, Hank. Now, I've had
Thank you.
No, financially, yeah, we're under attack, that's for sure. But I would like you said, how your wife can fill in a lot of these gaps. Let's get down there with a video camera, and sit down and get this.
Trina's been on the whole ride.
Yeah. And we'll get it all documented, and we'll get it up on Amazon. We'll try to make some money.
I was at work, and Courtney came home completely stoned one day, and Trina had to sit sit her down and jam Valium down her throat until she calmed down, man. She had to sit on her chest, and oh yeah, Trina knows the whole story all the way back.
Gotcha. Okay, we're here today with Hank Harrison. My friend, thank you so much. Okay, so anything comes up, any new news, just shoot me an email, and we'll get you right back on. Oh, okay, brother. Did I lose you? Okay. That was Hank Harrison, father of Courtney Love. We were discussing the book Soaked in Bleach, the book that documents Tom Grant's investigation into the death of Kurt Cobain. If you want to fill in some more gaps, we also had on the show today John Potash, who's the author of Drugs as a Weapons Against Us. Drugs Used as a Weapons Against Us. You can find, I'm going to have a link to both these books on the Opperman Report blog, and this is the kind of content that's in the members section, where you can subscribe and hear this kind of information. Then later on, it's put on in the future on the air. We also did a previous interview just recently that you can find on the Opperman Report YouTube channel and also on Spreaker and iHeart, an interview we did with John Potash that covers, we discussed a lot of the stuff that we just discussed today. I discussed previously with Potash a couple of weeks back, because he wrote a book about this, and one of his sources was Hank Harrison. I'm very proud to say that I put them in touch with each other to get that going. Previously, we had another interview with Hank Harrison about 18 months ago. You can find that on the YouTube channel. You can also find it on the Spreaker channel, where we go into more Hank's early life with the who are those guys? The Grateful Dead, and all his activity there. And a lot of comments in that YouTube section, people saying, oh, Hank was a handler, Hank was a CIA agent, all this kind of stuff, and then disturbed Hank. Hank really wanted to get that and clear his name and get into all that information. I'm sure we'll get even more of that. When you do hear, Hank says, oh, yeah, my buddies were CIA agents, and I put them in touch with my daughter. You got to wonder. Okay, you got to wonder, what's going on there. But, we ask the questions, and we get the answers, and that's what we put on the air. And people need to listen to it and decipher for themselves and figure out what they believe, what they don't believe, and what they support and what they don't support. Coming up, new member section show coming up tomorrow night. I'm going to be interviewing a guest, Marcia, about Paul is dead, about the whole theory about Paul McCartney being dead and being replaced and swapped out by a lookalike. And we have our own theories about that as well. And we'll be doing that show tomorrow night. That'll be available in the member section for you by Friday morning. And then for you guys listening live to the member section today, Friday night I have St. John Hunt, the son of E. Howard Hunt, coming on the show. Week after that, I have Dave McGowan. Please help support Dave. Keep him in your prayers. He's diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. You can go to his website, Center for an Informed America, and shoot him a PayPal donation, because our friend Dave is in a lot of trouble. There's a $10,000 bill on his chemotherapy treatments that they stick him with every few weeks. So we need to keep our brother there supported, because he can't work. His family can't work while he's going through this. And also, too, if you can send a PayPal donation to good old OppermanReport@gmail.com. That's what keeps us going here. Even if you are in the member section, since we started this new member section thing, which was a great idea, and it was so much fun, all the complaints I get over it, we don't get any more donations. No one sends donations anymore. So if you listen to this, and you say, hey, oh boy, what a show, groundbreaking information, good work there, Ed, pissing off the CIA, they're not going to have any, they're just going to sit back and take it, Ed, not do anything to you. Maybe you can help out with a little PayPal donation, especially since we just got some unexpected expenses related to the show just came up. So thank you all. We'll catch you next week. More great, members content. We love to give you here at the Opperman Report. Oh, by the way, too, hey, members, what we're going to be doing, too, is Victoria's show, Talking Back, is going to be featured in our members section, and all her interviews and stuff like that. We're going to be putting those in there for you. So if you don't, a lot of people, especially the members, say, hey, Ed, we really like it when you and Victoria, you get on the air and you joke around, you talk about your family life, you talk about your history, you tell your stories, and they like all that kind of stuff. So we're going to throw a little section in there for Victoria, my daughter, her show will be available to the members. And also, too, maybe in the future, we want to get documents in there, too. And I have a whole vision for the members section. If we can just get 150, 200 members, we can really get this stuff going. We can do these documentaries with people like Hank Harrison and his wife and sit down and interview them for 3 hours on video and then put it up on Amazon. But also, too, his documents. He has these letters. He's willing to send it to us. Let's scan this stuff and make it available in the members section. Even this book. I bet you I can work out a deal with him where you can get this book in the members section. You can download it for $2 and I'll split it with Hank. So let's see what we can come up with. All this kind of stuff, this new information we want to get out to here. Thank you all. God bless you. And I'll see you tomorrow night when I interview the Paul is Dead guest.